Marie Clay was a pioneer and advocate for young learners. She was the first to coin the term emergent literacy, created the Reading Recovery Program, and inspires educators to look at-risk students from year one to minimize their literacy deficits. Together, let's take a deeper look into the works of Marie Clay. Clay was born in Wellington, New Zealand in 1926. This part of the globe was known for their fine education and teaching skills. Education was and still is a top priority in New Zealand. Educators from this region show a great amount of ingenuity and cooperation. Clay was no exception to this. Clay earned her primary teacher certificate from Wellington College of Education in 1945. Her motivation and drive to be an educational leader continued as she attended the University of New Zealand to earn both her bachelor's and master's degree. Upon completing these monumental degrees, Clay headed to the United States in 1950 to continue her studies of children's education. It was during this time that Clay won a prestigious Fulbright scholarship and attended the University of Minnesota in the Developmental and Clinical Trial Psychology Department. This chapter of Clay's life was a turning point in her career as an educational theorist studying children's learning. Upon returning to New Zealand in the mid-1950s, Clay continued to teach in the elementary grades. She went on to work at the University of Auckland's Department of Educational Psychology. Here she served as a teacher of developmental psychology and consulted with school psychologists for the next 25 years. In 1963, Clay began writing her doctoral research dissertation on emergent reading behavior. Her research question was, can we see the process of learning to read and write going astray close to the onset of instruction? From this research, Clay would go on to coin the term emergent literacy later in the 1990s. Emergent literacy is defined as the developmental process that begins at birth when children acquire the foundation for reading and writing. Some components of emergent literacy can include print motivation, vocabulary, print awareness, narrative skills, letter knowledge, and phonological awareness. Print motivation refers to a child's interests in and enjoyment of books. Children who enjoy books from a young age will be more motivated to read even when it gets hard. The vocabulary component of emergent literacy refers to the child knowing the names of things. Children with a richer vocabulary are more likely to be successful readers. Print awareness refers to a child knowing how to handle a book and how to read left to right and top to bottom on a page. Narrative skills refer to a child's ability to describe things and retell events in a story. Letter knowledge is just as it sounds. It is the ability of a child to distinguish different letters from one another and to know their names and sounds. This also includes knowing that letters are everywhere in print. And lastly, phonological awareness relates to a child's ability to hear different sounds and words. Phonological awareness activities are done orally or by hearing. In 1976, Clay and a group of experienced primary educators began to develop an intervention program now called Reading Recovery. Reading Recovery is claimed to be one of Clay's most important contributions to the world of education. This program's goal is to bring the lowest children up to the average progress of their classmates. Clay felt that it was very important to target first graders in the lowest 20% of their class. Through daily one-on-one lessons with a trained teacher, the Reading Recovery Program works to accelerate literacy learning and reduce reading and writing failure difficulties. This Reading Recovery Intervention Program has stood the test of time and is now found in most English-speaking countries and has been redeveloped for use in Spanish and French-speaking areas. The program was first released in the United States in 1985 and is still used today. Now that you know a little bit more about the Reading Recovery Program, please go to www.edpuzzle.com and create a student account. It's easy and you don't even need to have an email address. Then please type in the class code DENATUW. From there you'll be able to access a 3-minute video highlighting the Reading Recovery Program. Throughout the video, you will be asked to respond to 3 reflection questions. Upon completing that assignment, please continue viewing this narrated presentation on Marie Clay. Clay's reading recovery program was based on her literacy processing theory. Clay studied the changes in literacy behavior of young children as they learned to read and write over a period of time. Since her studies, Clay found that no 2 paths to literacy are the same. In her research, Clay noted that children come to literacy learning with different levels of knowledge. She was quoted as saying that children have different paths to common outcomes. She concluded that reading and writing are complex, problem-solving processes. Marie Clay was the first woman professor in her area. As mentioned before, Clay was a pioneer in the fields of developmental psychology, school psychology, and education. She has been recognized for her literacy theories, creation of the Reading Recovery Intervention Program, and her peer-reviewed publications and books. As an educator, when you hear things like reading recovery, running records, and observation survey, you should think of Marie Clay. All of these tools provided glimpses of the reader and their thought processes while reading. Through researching her work, I have found many interesting and helpful ways to help emerging readers. And lastly, I leave you with some inspiration from Marie Clay herself. Teaching can be likened to a conversation in which you listen to the speaker carefully before you reply. If children are apparently unable to learn, we should assume that we have not as yet found the right way to teach them.